Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Horror Mine, the home for all things horror. This week, my friends, I'll be breaking down the latest movie in the Wrong Turn franchise, Wrong Turn. Wrong Turn serves as a reboot to the series and takes a completely different turn than the previous films in the franchise. Alright, I'm gonna do my best to lay off the Wrong Turn puns. I've never been a huge fan of the series, but the Wrong Turn films were absolute bloody fun, and you always knew what you were getting into. With this new entry, however, I had no idea what I was going to be in for. I only watched a single trailer for the film a couple months back, and I did my best to stay away from spoilers. The only thing I knew is that the Hiliker family would not be making a return. Does this movie take the franchise in the right direction, or does it make a wrong attempt to reboot an already mediocre but staple franchise in the horror genre with already established and memorable villains and change it? We're gonna find out as I break down Wrong Turn. Ladies and gents, we are so close to hitting 100 subscribers on the channel, so if you enjoy the video, feel free to subscribe and I truly appreciate all the support. But without further ado, let's talk horror movies. Our movie begins with a father making a missing persons report for his daughter at the local police station. He states that his daughter and a group of friends went hiking in the Appalachian Trails and he hasn't heard from her in 6 weeks. We see the man ask around town if anyone has seen his missing daughter. He meets a local bar patron that tells him he did in fact see his daughter and her friends. He states that they went into the woods and that he might as well stop looking because if they went into the woods, they are never coming back. Well, gee, thanks. Super helpful that was. The film comes back to 6 weeks ago and introduces us to Jennifer, the daughter the man was looking for. Jennifer is accompanied by her boyfriend Darius and their friends Mia, Adam, Gary, and Lewis. While behind the wheel, Darius makes the oh-so-common horror movie mistake of looking away from the road. Their back left tire suddenly pops and the group gets stranded in the middle of the road. While replacing the flat tire, we see that the group is being watched from the trees by an unknown person. The group manages to replace the tire thanks to old handy-dandy Jen and then drives into town. They settle in at the local inn where the innkeeper warns them not to go off the main trail. The group decide to go for a fun night out at the town's local bar. Gary and Lewis have minor argument where Gary asks why Lewis didn't want to hold his hand earlier. Adam states it's because they are in a town located in bumfuck Virginia. This catches the attention of the local bar patron we saw in the earlier scene. He approaches the group and tells them that if they ever need anything, he and his boys are always around. As the man walks away, Adam makes the smart decision of making a stereotypical remark against the man, which he hears. Like, really, Adam? You guys are outsiders in a small town that clearly isn't culturally diverse as the rest of the world, and you decide to act like an asshole? If you guys couldn't already tell, Adam is going to be a very unlikable character throughout the film. The man tells the group that they are nothing but kids who have never actually held down a job, and that they are what's wrong with the world. Jen decides to stand up to the man and points out that she sees some yellow in his eyes, and Mia states that he should probably go see a doctor. This gets the man to back off, and the group proceeds to have a seemingly good rest of the time at the bar. As the drunken group leaves the bar, they see a suspicious man looking into their car. Adam believes him to be one of the earlier bar patrons and tosses a glass bottle in his direction. The mysterious man vanishes, and the group decides it's time to call it a night-night. While in bed, we see a conversation between Darius and Jen, where he tells her why he chooses to work in a non-profit organization. He states that he would give anything to build a community in which people are valued based off their skills, and where everyone works and everyone shares. As our loving couple embraces, a shadowy figure appears outside their window, right on cue. The next day, we see Jen going out for a jog and she meets a young woman selling bracelets. She notices a little girl peeking at her from afar, named Ruthie. The group finally sets out on the hike through the Appalachian Trail. The film manages to capture some truly beautiful shots of nature during the sequence where the group explores the trail. Darius then suggests that they go off the trail for a bit so that they can explore the old war fort nearby. Jen reminds him that the innkeeper advised against doing that. However, Darius reassures her that it will be fine, and the group is convinced to go off the trail and possibly make a wrong life decision that is going to impact them in a most negative way that they never imagined possible and will lead to some of their inevitable and gruesome deaths. Not even 5 minutes off the trail, things start to go south when Mia almost falls off a cliff. The group then begins to question whether or not Darius knows where he's going. Out of nowhere, a gigantic log begins rolling downhill in their direction. The group panics and they all begin to run downhill as opposed to actually attempting to get out of the log's way. Thanks to old Mother Nature, they all either trip or stumble and get injured. Mia gets angry at Adam for quote-unquote leaving her, even though everyone pretty much just started running away from the log at the same time and in the same direction. We see Darius's finger looking pretty gnarly as his fall caused his hand to essentially fold backwards. We then see Gary's head completely crushed between the murderous log and its tree accomplice. Lewis becomes completely enraged and blames Darius for Gary's death. Jen notices a man staring at them from afar, but he quickly disappears. Mia wraps Darius's fingers up as the group sets out to find a way out of the woods. It is now nighttime and pouring down rain. Lewis believes that they are completely lost, but Darius refuses to admit it. He suggests that they camp out for the night. That night, as thunder roars, Jen sees a shadowy figure standing outside of her tent. Again, right on cue. In the morning, the group realizes that Mia is missing and that all of their cell phones have mysteriously disappeared. Jen tells the group that she thinks she saw someone outside of her tent in the middle of the night. Adam believes that someone is clearly messing with them, then goes out to look for Mia. They find a nearby plaque that shows the names of 12 families that pledged their lives to the Foundation of America back in 1859. They then come across Ruthie, the little girl from back in town. Adam decides to chase after her, but his leg is suddenly caught on a chain. The chain then begins dragging Adam away as he is pulled into a hole in the ground with no way to be saved. With no way to save Adam, the group decides to try and find a way off the mountain and get help. They soon come across a shed full of different items that look like they belong to past hikers. Suddenly, they observe two unknown individuals dressed in ghillie suits with animal skulls covering their faces, carrying a tied-up Adam on a stick. Darius arms himself with a nearby tool and quickly goes to Adam's rescue. Jen and Lewis also grab weapons and the three confront the two men. The mysterious men appear to try and communicate with the group but are speaking in a foreign tongue. Darius asks the men if they took Mia, but the men do not seem to understand what he is asking. Adam suddenly jumps up and starts beating one of the men over the head with a large branch. He repeatedly bashes the man over the head while yelling, "You killed her," and kills the man. Without them realizing, they found out that the other man made a run for it. Adam states that he had to kill him because he killed Mia. And all of a sudden, Mia appears right behind the group and tells them that she just went out to take a leak and hid when she saw the mysterious men walking around. Jen tells Adam that he killed the man for no reason, but he defends himself, stating that they captured him and were possibly going to kill him. The group decides that Adam did the right thing and that they must get out of there without telling a soul about what happened. Darius then walks across a tripvine that triggers another trap that launches into him. The trap punctures his shoulder but does not kill him. Adam points out that the fact that there is even another trap proves that the unknown individuals mean them harm. We then see a man brilliantly disguised as a tree capture Lewis. We then see what appears to be several people running around and rummaging through the woods around the group. Adam freaks out and takes off running, with Mia following right behind him. As Mia attempts to catch up to Adam, she falls into a pitfall trap and gets stabbed in several places by wooden stakes. She pleads for Adam to get her out of there, but he ignores her pleas and leaves her to die. A skull-masked individual then appears on top of her and ends her pain with an arrow. As Adam makes his escape, he conveniently looks backwards as someone pulls a vine that inconveniently trips him. Adam is then captured and dragged off screen. Jen and Darius take refuge between some large rocks, but they too are also taken captive. We then cut back to Jen's father, who is worried sick about her as she is not answering any of his phone calls. Jen wakes up bound inside of a dark pit. We then see that the lady Jen met in town is affiliated with the forest people. Jen, Darius, Adam and Lewis are all held captive and are forced to walk back to the forest people's camp. As the group is being led through the camp, we see several of the camp's inhabitants seemingly living out their lives like normal. The group is brought back to a dark cave underground and are forced to kneel. We then see several men walking into the room that instantly reminded me of the Greybeards from Skyrim. Then, the obvious head honcho walks into the room. How did I know? Oh, I don't know, he's wearing the mask with the largest freaking skull. The man takes off his freakishly large skull and then tells the group that this is court and that they are on trial. Now, ladies and gents, this is where the movie takes an interesting turn and really separates itself from the other movies in the franchise. The leader tells them that they are on trial for murder. The group is understandably confused and Adam believes that this is bullshit. Come on, you little douchebag, have some respect in the court. We find out that the bracelet lady from town is the leader's daughter, named Edith. The court brings forth as first witness the man who was secretly following the group since the beginning of the movie. He says that Adam threw a bottle at him back in town and that he hates them. The next witness is named Morgan. Morgan reveals that he and his brother Samuel were out hunting on the mountain and noticed that they had caught something in their game trap. He states that they discovered an injured Adam in their trap and planned to bring him back down the mountain where he could be found. He then states that the rest of the group attacked them with weapons and that Adam brutally murdered Samuel. Jen says in their defense that they believed Morgan and Samuel meant them harm due to how they were dressed. The leader says that they wear masks and skulls with animal suits while hunting. He asks Jen to tell the truth about whether or not Adam murdered Samuel. Jen says that Adam did not murder Samuel as the court proceeds to submit Samuel's dead body as evidence. The court then brings forth its final witness. The leader asks the little girl, Ruthie, who killed Samuel, and she points to Adam. Jen panics and again states that Adam killed Samuel in self-defense because he thought that they were going to kill him. He's got a point. The court finds Adam guilty of murder and hands down the death sentence. Adam manages to get free of his binds and then holds a knife to Ruthie's throat. Come on, man. Slick Ruthie pulls out a knife and jabs Adam in the leg, which forces him to let go. The leader then tells Adam that he is not a man. He tells the rest of the group that they are guilty of bearing false witness and hands down the sentence of darkness. Just as Adam is about to be killed, Jen pleads one last time to spare his life, calling his execution barbaric. The leader then tells her that they live in the woods because they have everything they need there. He states that everyone works and everyone contributes. Huh, where have I heard that before? He says that they have no conflict, no war, no sickness, and that everyone works together as one. He then proceeds to bash Adam's face in, just as Adam did to Samuel. The remainder of the group is then taken to another part of the dungeon for darkness. The leader says that here they will see no evil, hear no evil, and speak no evil. In another scene that reminded me of Skyrim, Lewis foolishly attempts to make a run for it but is stopped by a throwing knife to the back. The leader then takes a hot metal rod and jams it into Lewis's eyes. He is then thrown into a pit of darkness. Just as Darius is about to be handed down his punishment, Jen quickly tells him that doing this would be a waste of resources. She says that Darius works for a non-profit and has many skills that will be a valuable asset to their community. They then ask Jen what she would be able to contribute, and she offers herself as a wife to one lucky groom. Now, remember this for later, ladies and gents. Instead of just claiming to have the same skills as Darius, she willingly offers to be someone's wife and join the group. Jen and Darius willingly agree to contribute and become a part of the community. Now back on the surface, Darius is approached by two fellow citizens and is handed a knife and some alcohol, showing that they have accepted him into their ranks. Jen is then taken to the leader's house and we find out she is going to be his wife. She embraces him and then leads him into bed. We now go back to the present day as we see Jen's father, Scott, in the town of Wentwood looking for her. He is approached by the innkeeper, Eileen, who tells him that she warned the group not to get off the trail. She tells Scott that there are several people living in the woods that call themselves the Foundation, and that no one bothers them. She says that anyone who gets lost in those woods doesn't come back, dead or alive. Scott is then jumped by the bar patrons as the police chief drives by and does absolutely nothing. The next day, a determined Scott sets out on a mission to look for his missing daughter.
Where are they? If you let my daughter go now, that'll be the end of it.
No, wrong movie. Eileen decides to help Scott and she enlists the help of her nephews, Ed and Cooper, who are hunters and know their way around the woods. The group make their way into the woods as Ed identifies several booby traps set by the Foundation. Cooper then falls into a pit and they try to get him out of there. As they try to pull him out, Ed is unaware of a tripwire located right behind his foot. He scoots his foot too far back and sets off the trap, and Scott manages to escape just in time. Scott takes the revolver out of Ed's holster and continues into the woods on his own. Unsurprisingly, he is eventually captured and brought to the Foundation's camp. He recognizes Darius, who is now sporting a gnarly beard. Darius doesn't speak to Scott and seems to have completely turned. Scott hilariously pulls out the revolver and shoots 3 warning shots into the air. He is then suddenly struck in the arm with an arrow, who we find out was shot by Jen herself. Jen appears emotionless and does not seem to care that her father came all this way looking for her. The leader appears and finds Scott immediately guilty of trespassing and hands down the sentence of darkness to be carried out at dawn. While in bed, the leader asks Jen if she's alright. She proceeds to get on top of him and assures him that she's made her choice. Damn, really? Number 1, Jen is the freaking leader's wife. She must have some sort of pull. And number 2, the leader doesn't seem like an unreasonable or evil man. Why not just ask for forgiveness on her father's behalf and let him go? This absolutely made no sense to me, as I obviously knew she was putting up a front so that she could escape with her dad later on. And just as I predicted, Jen attempts to make a run for it with Scott during the night. She tries to convince Darius to go with them, but he refuses. He has completely bought into the idea of the Foundation and states that he belongs there. The Foundation is exactly what Darius has been looking for in life, as he explained in the beginning of the film. Jen asks Ruthie if there's a secret way off the mountain. Ruthie takes them underground into the dungeons. They run into Morgan, and Jen, instead of just shooting him quietly with an arrow, shoots him with the freaking revolver. Jen and Scott then enter the darkness and see dozens of convicted beings wandering aimlessly in the dark. She comes across Lewis, and Mercy kills him, again, with a revolver. Come on, Jen. You're trying to freaking escape in the middle of the night, and you go shooting a loud-ass revolver left and right while you have a bow and arrow on your back. But what do I know, right? As the father and daughter duo sneak away from the camp, Jen is suddenly attacked by Edith, who probably woke up due to, I don't know, gunshots? Jen and Edith both fall in between some rocks, and Edith gets knocked out. Jen walks off attempting to look for Scott and is jumped by another villager. Jen then brutally stabs him several times with her knife. As Scott looks for Jen, Edith runs up on him from behind and he then blasts her in the head with a revolver. Scott finds Jen still stabbing the body of the man she killed, and the two embrace. They are then ambushed by another villager wielding an axe, but Jen quickly disposes of him with her arrows. They are suddenly confronted by the bar patrons wielding rifles and flashlights. The man tells them that he is here to help them, and that he only jumped Scott earlier in hopes that it would keep him away from going into the woods. One of the men is suddenly killed by a throwing knife to the face, and the men start firing their guns into the woods. The group retreat into a pickup truck as the leader emerges from the woods calling for Jennifer. The man grabs a freaking Molotov cocktail and tosses it into the woods. The group then safely ride into the sunrise. Sometime in the future, we see that Jen is now working with Scott on building homes. Jen reminds Scott that tonight is pizza night and tells him that the boys picked out a movie about inbred cannibals. Jen comes home and her mother introduces her to their new neighbors, John and Ruthie. We then see the leader himself sitting at the dining table in regular clothing. John congratulates a completely horrified Jen on being pregnant. Jen goes to her bedroom and arms herself with 2 hunting knives. She confronts John and tells him to get the fuck out of her house. She then throws one of the knives at him but misses. John grabs the knife and proceeds to murder her entire family in a rapid manner. And it was all in her imagination. She asks to speak to John alone and he asks her to come home as she is carrying his child. She promises to go with him if he in turns promises never to come back here and harm her family. He agrees and the couple walks out of the house and drives away in John's RV as the film ends. In a mid-credits scene, we see a man named Nick Fury tell Tony that he is not the only superhero in the world. Wait, whoa, wrong movie. Who the hell's messing with my script? In a mid-credits scene, we see the RV lose control and crash into a parked car. We then see Jen and John exit the RV, and Jen proceeds to murder John by stabbing him numerous times. The driver of the RV attempts to make a run for it, but is also murdered by Jen. Jen and Ruthie then walk together off screen as the movie ends. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the Wrong Turn reboot. To be quite honest here, guys, I thought this was a good movie. The film began with a plotline that's been done 1,000 times, but then turned things around when it introduced the Foundation. The movie does a good job in teaching us that we shouldn't be too quick to judge a book by its cover. The Foundation were portrayed as the film's main antagonists, but they really weren't evil or cannibalistic murderers. They were just people with a different way of life than our own and just wanted to be left alone. Now, let me address the elephant in the room here. This movie should not have been called Wrong Turn, and should have nothing to do with the Wrong Turn franchise. It was a good enough film to stand alone on its own, and could have probably just been called The Foundation. My next problem with the film was with the main protagonist. Jennifer was a terrible main protagonist in my opinion. She offered herself to become John's wife as opposed to just saying she could contribute like Darius. No one forced her into that decision. So when she murders John at the end, I feel like that made her into the bad guy. John did not show any signs of being evil, cruel, or unreasonable. I feel like Jen could have talked her way into a resolution that didn't result in murdering 2 people in cold blood in the middle of a city street. Because where does the franchise go from here? Does Jen return and lead the Foundation? Does the Foundation take revenge for John's death? Or does a completely new group of teens wander into the woods? It just doesn't make much sense. The franchise could pull a Halloween 4 Return of Michael Myers and come out with Wrong Turn, Return of the Hilikers. I don't know. Like I said, ladies and gents, this was a good movie that I enjoyed, but it definitely should not have been called Wrong Turn. But ladies and gentlemen, as always, I hope you enjoy the video. I cannot wait to see y'all right back here in the Horror Mine. Y'all stick around.